posting a dub.
Let's bring him in. Joining us now is the 45th President of the United States, GOP presidential frontrunner, Donald Trump. Mr. President, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
I got to pee real quick.
Good morning.
So, Mr. President, let's talk about the reaction from the Supreme Court. You got both a unanimous decision from the liberal wing, the conservative wing. They said that you deserve to be on the ballot and voters get the right to decide. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think having a unanimous vote was really great, and they were hoping for it. People were hoping for it because there should be no question. If you're going to win or lose, you have to win or lose at the ballot box, not in a courtroom. And it was a really well-crafted decision. People were very happy about it. Actually, all sides pretty much were respectful of it.
Right. And then Jamie Raskin took about a 3-second break and then says, I'm moving on legislation. Listen to what the congressman said.
I am working with a number of my colleagues, including Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Eric Swalwell, to revive legislation that we had to set up a process by which we could determine that someone who committed insurrection is disqualified by Section 3 of the 14th Amendment.
What do you think about this left-wing movement?
Well, it's the same losers. They're real losers. If they spent their time focusing on the country and making America great again, that would be a lot better than just wasting their time. I've been going through it for years, beating them for years, and it's the same voices, the same faces. They never stop. They don't care about our country. I don't think they love our country, frankly. They love themselves or their movement, and it's a sick movement. And I'm just focused on winning an election. We have to beat Biden. He's the worst president in history. There's never been a worse president. Our borders are an embarrassment all over the world. We have millions and millions of people coming in from jails, from mental institutions. Nobody's ever seen it. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. They're coming in from jails and prisons and mental institutions.
As we talked about yesterday, we literally did that to El Salvador.
Insane asylums. They're terrorists. I mean, you have terrorists pouring in at a level that we have not seen maybe ever. And what they're doing to our country is incredible. They're poisoning our country, and we're going to close up our border, and we're going to deport the people. We're going to get them out because no country can sustain what we're going through right now.
Mr. President, you know I know all too well about that. It's my home state of Texas is the epicenter. But I want to get your reactions to Super Tuesday. You're going to be competing in a lot of states. A lot of folks say you will get close if you win, like the polling suggests tonight, to getting the nomination. But the question is, how are you going to unify your party and then unify the country after that? Is there a peace deal between you and Nikki Haley to move forward as a party?
Well, my focus is really, at this point, it's on Biden. We should win almost every state today. I think every state. Last night, as you know, we won with 87% of the vote. We won North Dakota, a great state with a great governor, by the way. But we really look at it, Biden. We think we're going to be very well unified. I've never seen enthusiasm. Look, I did great in the first one. I did great in the second one. I got millions and millions of more votes in 2020 than I did in 2016. We're going to do it a lot.
Sick. Elon Musk doing VDARE propaganda again. This administration is both importing voters and creating a national security threat from unvetted illegal immigrants. It is highly probable that the groundwork is being laid for something far worse than 9/11, just a matter of time. 281,000 likes on this. We are so cooked. Biden administration admits flying 320,000 migrants secretly into the U.S. to reduce the number of crossings of the border has national security vulnerabilities. He turned off the community notes on his posts. Yeah, nice. I love that the richest guy on the planet is just like an outward fascist. Ironic because he is an immigrant. And at a certain point was an undocumented immigrant, as a matter of fact. He literally was a visa overstayer during college. So, you know, but obviously that's different because he's sick and cool.
A lot of bad things.
Oh, Bezos back on top, my king. Thank you, Bezos.
Happen there whether you like it or not. And we're going to do phenomenal this one. We have a secure election. We're going to make it secure. It's going to be more secure. That's the biggest threat we have. And we have more enthusiasm now than we had in 2020 or 2016, and that's a lot.
Here's what Nikki Haley said about her chances, because in the polls, as you know, she seems...
Twitter is so busted, dude. Twitter is a complete right-wing shithole. Just complete right-wing shithole.
to beat Joe Biden by a wider margin. Oh, you're closing the gap. Here's what she said yesterday. Here's what she said yesterday.
If you look at any of the general election polls, Joe Biden and Donald Trump are even. I think there was a Fox poll today. He was up by 2. That's still margin of error. Between last week's poll and this week's poll, I defeat Joe Biden by up to 18 points.
Well, your reaction to her as a general, she thinks she's a better general election candidate. Your thoughts?
It's a lie. She knows it's a lie. Look, I have beaten Biden in every poll taken for the last 3 months. She loses to Biden in the polls. She had one fake poll that was taken a long time ago, actually before she started on her little kick, and where she was up. Nobody ever heard of the poll. Nikki Haley loses to Biden. She will lose to Biden.
That's not true. That's literally not true. I think if Nikki Haley somehow won, the Republican primary, which is not going to happen, obviously, clearly, is not happening. But if she had, in an alternate universe, like, I think Nikki Haley would defeat Joe Biden. I think Trump beats Biden too, but I think Nikki Haley would also beat Biden by wider margins, as a matter of fact. I don't know why he's saying, like, nope, Nikki Haley would Haley even be even worse or less than Trump? Why are we doing lesser evil between two of the same evil? Why are people on the left always so predisposed to this, like, harm reduction argument that we're literally doing lesser evil voting arguments between Nikki Haley and Donald Trump at this point? Doesn't that kind of destroy the whole principle behind, like, lesser evil voting? Yeah, will Hitler be less evil than super mega evil Hitler?
The polls are saying that. And then when you add other candidates, she loses by even more. We are winning against Biden in every single poll, and everybody knows it, whether it's the New York Times, whether it's any of the polls that have been taken over the last 3 months. So she's misrepresenting that fact, and it's fine. It's not going to matter because I think we're going to win every state tonight.
I did see her up in a poll, double digits, but you are up. You won. You're up by 4 in the New York Times. You're up by 2 in the Fox News, the Wall Street Journal 2, and the CBS poll 4.
But, Mr. President, can we get your reaction to, it looks like you're winning with Hispanics based on the polling that we got yesterday. You've gained ground.
He's winning with Hispanics? No, he's not. The fuck? Yeah. Trump is not winning with Hispanics, bro. What are you talking about? Unless you're talking about fucking Florida only or some shit. Sir, we got this poll that says you're winning with Hispanics, Cuban only in Florida and Venezuelan only in Florida. Like, the fuck do you mean? Bro, this nation has hella Hispanics, okay? The fuck are we talking about? They don't just live in Texas and Florida, okay? Now, Biden is definitely performing worse with Latino voters this time around than even before. And it is not simply because of he is in the New York Times poll. Wait, what? The Siena poll shows him losing? No way. What? Trump support among Latinos grows. New York Times Siena College poll found President Biden losing support among Latino voters, who now account for nearly 50% of eligible voters, a record high. Yes. No, Trump's increasing his margins with Hispanics, but he's not winning. The number of Latino eligible voters has increased steadily for 2 decades to more than 36 million. Yes, this is true. Historically, roughly a third of Latino voters have supported Republicans in presidential elections, but there have been examples of greater Republican success in 2004 with George W. Bush. For much of that campaign, many Democrats presumed that Mr. Trump's anti-immigration rhetoric and policies would repel Latino voters, and in much of the country, that presumption proved to be true. Exactly. Roughly 60% voted for Mr. Biden, and Latino voters helped flip Arizona to Democrats in 2020. I've talked about this quite a bit. They were also central to the party's ability to hold on in Nevada in both that election and the 2022 Senate race. But Latino voters in South Texas and Florida were also key for Republican wins. Yes, this is also true. So where is it? Where does this say? Since 2020, both Republicans and Democrats have scrambled to shore up support with Latino voters. No, they haven't. Democrats have not. Republicans have, and they have always consistently tried to get the Latino vote to maintain their control over Texas, which they have been able to, and largely because they seem to see the group as critical to creating a winning majority. Mr. Trump does not need the support of a majority of Latinos to win in November, merely peeling off a few percentage points. Yes. What happened? The poll shows Mr. Trump edging out Biden among Hispanic voters, with 46% supporting the former president and 40% favoring Mr. Biden. But because Latino voters make up 15%, no, this is ridiculous. That's insane. This is due to young Latino voters not voting or not showing up in the polls and will most likely not vote. That's it. He's gotten 40% now? Jesus Christ. I mean, 46%? That's insane. Just realized that Biden's new opinion on the border will almost surely ensure Biden will lose Arizona election versus Trump, huh? HasanAbi just realized? You think I just realized that? Go watch any of my videos on this exact issue. I've said specifically that Latino voters, Hispanic voters in fucking Arizona, Hispanic voters in Nevada are younger and are also... Oh, you're saying you just personally realized. Okay. Yeah, no, I have said that. I've said that before. I've been saying that. At what point do we say it's actually Jover? Unless Biden does a revolution, he's cooked. No, he doesn't need to do a revolution to win in the upcoming election. He's not. He needs just to do the exact opposite of what he's doing. He needs to hammer on abortion. He needs to fucking hammer on democracy. And he needs to not do this fucking right-wing immigration shift and keep talking about how immigration is the backbone of this fucking nation. He is losing younger voters. He is hemorrhaging demographics that he desperately needs to hold on to that literally gave him a victory over Trump last election cycle. But he's so hyper-focused on... he is so hyper-focused on maintaining the moderates and thinking that like a reactionary approach to immigration will allow the moderates to continue voting in favor of Biden in the upcoming election cycle, that he has lost sight of a winning coalition. It feels like they are literally trying to lose, like desperately trying to fucking lose. It is the same style of hopelessness. It is the same style of hopelessness that many British people experienced, maybe even to a worse degree, in the Labour Party in the UK. And I've been screaming about this for months now, and for some reason, you know, there's just no one listening on the Democratic Party side. I am a South Texan Latino. Most of this is actually the fault of small town politics and Democrats unwilling to put in the effort at that level. It's not just that. The GOP has done a shit ton of outreach to Latino voters in Texas. GOP Texas is the model. Now, Latino voters are not a coherent, unitary block of voters. Obviously, depending on what Latino voters we're talking about, they have very different opinions. Like Cubans, very right wing. Okay, Cuban American voters, very right wing. Venezuelan American voters, also pretty right wing. Latino splaining to a Latino? Yes, I am. Because while I am not Latino myself, even though Flexicans are fucking Turks, okay, this is my job. My job is to look at the fucking polls consistently for the past 10 fucking years and make accurate assessments off of voter patterns. Okay? So, yes, this is what I do. Welcome to the HasanAbi broadcast. Latino voters, by and large, are one of the only blocks, with the exception of the Cubans and Venezuelans in Florida. Latino voters across the board, on every fucking age demographic, are one of the only constituencies that actually wants bigger government. Okay? They want bigger government. They say they are pro larger government. What does this mean? This is the most right-wing framing on social safety nets that you can possibly arrive at in a poll. And yet, even with the most right-wing way to frame that issue, Latino voters, even older Latino voters, say they are in favor of more social safety nets. But the Democrats don't offer any real social safety nets. Okay? Latino voters also, especially older Latino voters, because this is an aging, this is a very young group of voters overall. But of course, as years go by, you age more and more and more. Latino voters overall, especially older Latino voters, are very right-wing on social issues. Okay? So if one side hammers on the right-wing, anti-abortion, we are the ones who are like anti-trans, like if the Republican Party captures at least some stuff for Latino voters, especially older ones, and the Democratic Party loses them on the social issues, especially the older voters, and can't capture them on the economic issues, which they would be willing to vote for, then you got nothing. Of course they're going to go and fucking vote for the Republican Party, because the Republican Party is at least offering them something that they care about. Okay? The Democratic Party is not. The Democratic Party is not giving them anything. Especially with the Hispanic population being considered white in this country more and more every election cycle as a consequence of like the shifting demographics in this country. Obviously, white as the dominant in-group has to maintain a majority in this country. So year over year, we add on different demographics under the white umbrella, and Latinos are under the white umbrella now. Okay? The younger they are, the closer they are to immigrating into the country, the less white they are perceived and the less white they perceive themselves. But once your second generation, third generation, full-blown assimilation has occurred already, and you are under the white category, and plenty of Latinos that have been living here that are direct descendants of undocumented migrants do not see themselves as brown or Latino or can vote like white people do. Okay? So, for those guys, if you don't give them something to vote for, they're going to go and vote for the other guy that's giving them something to vote for. Let me show the cops that harass me your data. That'll make them stop. Everyone gets so touchy about this, bro. I get it, okay? I know. The way you are perceived by a police officer is not what we're talking about right now. Do you understand? According to the Pew Center of Research, almost 60% of Latinos see themselves as white. Like, that's how they identify. That's what they self-identify. And I already said, younger Latino voters do not, for the most part. Okay? Younger Hispanic voters, younger Latino voters do not see themselves as white. But the more far removed you are from coming into the country, if you're a second generation, third generation, or even fourth generation, then you are captured in the polls as a white voter, and you tend to vote like white voters do. I'm trying to help people comprehend the inconsistency and get people to understand why voting patterns play out the way that they do. That's it. I don't know how some other fellow Latinos don't see that. They're likely half Spanish, and that's where the European white part of it comes from. From the ideology comes hand in hand with that. You talk a big talk, so I hope you're ready to step up. Dude, I'm doing it. I'm going to be, I am. I'm going to be the president. I'm not old enough, but it's okay. We'll make it work. The one group of people in this country that will never be perceived as white, whether it is the model minority or whatever, is black people. Okay? Whiteness as a social political construct is determined by how far away you are from blackness. Okay? That's it. Other than black people, everyone will inevitably be captured under the umbrella of white in the dominant in-group. The reason why I said model minorities, because like Asians across the board are also seen as the model minority in general. Anyway, Arabs in the U.S. are counted as white. Yes. I'm white. I'm a white guy, okay? Both on the polls, both the way that I'm seen, but depending on who you ask, I'm not. You know what I mean? Even though I say I am, doesn't matter. Your Latin American analysis is correct through Latam. I don't get why people don't understand that. Don't you think Jeremy Corbyn's major failure in the UK election showed liberals that they need to move further right and abandon any sort of leftism? Yeah, dude, it was really good. That's definitely the lesson. That's definitely the takeaway. That's why the Lib Dems do so well in the UK. Famously. Because there is a liberal party. The Labour is supposed to be the left party. Why is it that why is it that fucking Lib Dems do so poorly? When I was applying for university back in high school, every time I got the race question, I didn't feel identified, so I asked my counselor what I should push. She told me to select white. I didn't understand. I still don't. Anyway, last electoral success for the Lib Dems when they were in coalition with the Tories in 2010. My cousin, who is third generation Mexican and at only 18, he's the most reactionary person. He said today, El Salvador prisons are justified. Yeah. The other side of the story. Oh, Ryan and Jeremy are ready. We're gonna move on from like domestic politics and talk about Palestine a little bit. Back to the election. Back to the back to the Supreme Court and Donald Trump torching the Democratic losers for trying to remove him from the ballot. In a unanimous decision, the Supreme Court yesterday decided that Donald Trump cannot be taken off the ballot on 14th Amendment grounds and that states cannot individually choose to take off a candidate from the ballot. Big W for Donald Trump. That was expected.
20 points with black voters. I mean, what's the operation going to look like in this general election? I hear from your advisors that there's going to be no city left behind.
We're going after everything. Look, we have a different country than we had even 2 years ago. This whole migrant invasion of our country, destruction of our country. You look at what's happened to New York and Chicago. You look at what's happened to Los Angeles. We have a much different country in many ways, but also from a voting standpoint. People that were modestly happy 3 years ago are devastated right now. Their country has been invaded. They can't go to hospitals. They can't go to schools. They can't use their playgrounds for their kids. They cancel out the little leagues. I read today where little leagues are being canceled out all over the country because you have migrants living all over the parks and the fields. Our country is a mess, and
right.
I think you have a much different country than you do. We're going to make a heavy play for New York. We're going to make a heavy play for Virginia, states that generally don't go Republican. I think they're going to go Republican in a lot. I think they've got, frankly, I think the Democrats have themselves a big problem.
Well, it's fascinating what's taking place. I think a lot of people are dumbfounded by your numbers, and especially over this past weekend, and you compound the momentum you got with the Supreme Court decision. Can we talk about your policies for a second? As you know, this
Sure.
president of the United States, when it comes to Israel, is getting protested. Now he seems to be turning on Israel. But the non-committed vote that Biden's getting, they're not going to like you either because you are firmly in Israel's camp, correct? Are you on board with the way the IDF is taking the fight in Gaza?
You've got to finish the problem. You had a horrible invasion. It took place. It would have never happened if I was president, by the way. As you know, Iran was broke, Brian. They were broke.
Dude, Donald Trump is almost directly, I would say directly responsible for October 7th. Like way more than Biden. Okay? Straight up. Moving the embassy to Jerusalem, permanently recognizing the annexed lands in Golan Heights, and also the Abraham Accords completely writing out Palestinians from the equation is literally some of the major geopolitical reasons as to why October 7 happened. Okay? On top of that, casting aside the Iran denuclearization agreement that they were following, the terms on, even after he tossed it aside and added sanctions, additional sanctions for no reason. The Iranian government kept following the protocol. Like he just lit the entire region on fire. Like, this is the most expected outcome. Ridiculous.
They had no money for Hamas, for Hezbollah. They were broke. This would have never happened. And for another reason, they wouldn't have done it to me. I guarantee you that. They did this because they have no respect for Biden. And frankly, they got soft. And what happened here is incredible. That should never have happened. Likewise, Russia would never have attacked Ukraine. Never. You know it. Everybody knows it, and that wouldn't have happened. This is all on Biden.
Do you think the president's in the process of abandoning Israel?
I do believe that, but I don't think he knows where he is, frankly. I think you could ask him a question right now, ask him the same question. I don't think he knows what to say about many subjects, actually. It's really the people that surround him. It's the fascists and the communists that surround him. They're making the calls. They're calling the shots. He's not calling the shots.
Mr. President, what did you feel about Kamala Harris calling for a ceasefire in Gaza? Is that something that you support? Is that something that is totally off the table right now for you?
Look, I hate seeing what's happening. Again, it would have never happened. This attack on Israel and likewise Israel's counterattack, which is what it is, would never have happened if I was president. And you know that, Lawrence. This would have never happened. And it's so horrible to watch it because, you know, if things went right, in 2020, which they should.
Dude, you know what's really funny? When Donald Trump says communists and fascists unite side by side, it is like a very Polish position. It is obviously ahistorical. Communism and fascism does not align. They are actually historical enemies. And yet, not only is this the position of like most Polish people and Donald Trump, it has now basically become the position of like a lot of liberals, a lot of Democrats as well that are permanently online. Not the average Democrat, of course, but like a lot of permanently online Reddit-pilled Democrats that you hear about are regularly talking about like the horseshoe between fascism and communism, like extremes on both sides. Like, I think that's a testament to how much dumber we have become as a society. I would say we are getting progressively dumber and dumber and dumber as a society, that even like people who are outside of the mainstream media stranglehold, that get their news from independent resources. I think you're wrong if you talk to the average apolitical person. They think communism and fascism are the same, if not aligned, Lamau. Fine, you're right about that. Yes, you are right about that. I'm talking about people who are like actively reading and fancy themselves to be more educated voters in general. These are not people that in the past, I think, would have adopted this position, adopted this framing that is like ahistorical.
Yeah, but they didn't for some very bad and sinister reasons. All these people that are dead in Ukraine and Russia and Israel and all these people that are dead, all these areas that are destroyed, people would be leading great lives right now. All of these dead people, much more importantly than the physical, but cities that are just totally wiped out all over the place. We're going to end up in World War III. This is the worst president.
I like that he's like also trying to say this is a way for him to like, because he's constantly reading the room. No. He's literally talking about Gaza, right? He's saying we're going to have World War III because of Biden, while simultaneously saying he would do what Biden is doing, but worse. Okay? But because he has the ability to read the room better than Biden does, he's basically saying like, what happened on October 7 is bad. What has happened since then is also bad, and it would not have happened under my watch. That doesn't mean that he's being truthful or honest. It's just interesting to see his messaging on the matter, trying to triangulate a position where he's stating that like he comes with the recognition that like what Israel's doing is also like kind of crazy, kind of fucked up, but without actually saying it, because God forbid he come across anti-Israel in any way.
President in history. He makes Jimmy Carter look phenomenal. Makes Jimmy Carter look brilliant.
Well, the foreign policy. Let's bring it to
the ethnic cleansing in air quotes. Oh, come on. We had a little hog. You don't have to block them immediately. You don't have to ban them immediately. He said, in air quotes, the ethnic cleansing would end tomorrow if Hamas would release the hostages to surrender. That's crazy. Jay Gutman won. Because, oh my God, is this actually what you look like? Jesus Christ. I don't even want to. It has to be a bait account. There's no way. No, I'm not going to put it on screen. But anyway, the ethnic cleansing, he said in air quotes, would end tomorrow if Hamas would release the hostages and surrender. Is really interesting that you're saying this, because like October 6th, Hamas had no Israeli hostages and Israel still was an apartheid state. You know? That was still the case. And it still is an apartheid state. So you lied.
domestic for a second. I know in about 2 or 3 weeks with your court cases, if I'm going to believe what I read in the decisions, you have to come up with something like $400 million. How close are you to securing the bond, or what you need for that?
I have a lot of money. I could do what I want to do, but this was a horrible, illegal decision. This was a decision made up by a crooked judge, 100% crooked clubhouse judge, a disgrace with a equally crooked attorney general who campaigned on "I will get Trump," and we're appealing that decision, and we'll see how we do. But I'll tell you what, people are leaving New York. Businesses are fleeing New York because of that decision. They used the statute to go after me that was never used before.
So you're not
never
worried?
Used before.
Trump is talking about New York like it's fucking a YouTuber talking about China. New York, folks, it's on the verge of collapse, believe me. Once a beacon of prosperity, New York nowadays is falling apart, just like China. Tomorrow, folks, no more commerce in New York nor China, which, of course, also has a Chinatown. Think about it. Under a third Trump presidency, there will be no Chinese towns in any American cities.
You're not worried about the money?
I don't worry about anything. No, I don't worry about the money. I don't worry about money.
Mr. President, a lot of people believe that you're at your best when you're fighting for the American people. And we just heard in the diners, we heard immigration, but the other top issue was the economy. What are you going to do to give us some relief when it comes to this inflation? People are going to, whether it's the gas station or to the grocery store, and they're being hit hard. How do you fix that in the first 100 days?
Well, first of all, let me speak to the people in the diner. I saw the vote, and there was 100% Trump, none for my opponent. And I love you in the diner. I will take care of you, and we're going to drill, baby, drill, and we're going to get prices down. Energy's going to bring it all down. We're going to get a lot of that oil. We're going to get the oil and gas right from Texas and other places, but from Texas largely. And I just appreciate it. I saw that vote early this morning. They said, Will's doing a good job, by the way. Will said, you're for Trump, and the whole place went crazy. What about Haley? Nobody, right. Not one person. So all of those people in the diner, I love you.
Right. So speaking of Nikki Haley, she's coming up shortly. After tonight, if the polls are correct and you run the table and you're a week away from locking it up, will there be any effort on your side to reach across and say, okay, just like Ted Cruz, just like Marco Rubio, let's make amends and fight on one side? Would you?
Oh my God. At first I thought he meant reaching across the aisle to the Democratic Party. No, he's saying, will you reach across the aisle on the Republican Party to unify the party? Ah! For a second, I was like, what is this, MSNBC? Like, oh, he's going to be like, fuck no, those are communist pedophile vampires. Nope, he's talking about the Republicans. Let's see what he has to say. Yeah, true bipartisanship. Republicans that want a 10% extra tax cut for the wealthy versus Republicans that want no taxes for the wealthy. We're going to get together and we're going to do a 50% tax cut for the top tax bracket. That's bipartisanship, folks.
You call her, reach out to her?
Look, she said she'd never run against me, and she did. She said she beat Ron DeSantis in Iowa, and she didn't. She ran up and she did. She misrepresents a lot of facts. She's not doing nearly well against. She's not doing very well against Biden. She shows these polls that nobody ever heard of. You got to tell the facts. You got to tell the truth. The answer is, I want everybody to come together. We're going to have a unified party because our real opponent happens to be named Biden. And he's a disaster. As I said, the worst president in our country. He's destroying our country.
So, Mr. President,
I don't think in terms of Nikki Haley.
Yeah, so
I'll tell you what.
Mr. President, real quickly, because we only got a little bit of time with you, is this your call right now to say, after tonight, Nikki Haley, join me on stage for the good of the Republican Party? Is that your request for her tonight? Well,
there's no path for her to win. Whether she likes hearing that or not, There's no path for her to win, no matter what. Now, today, I should win, hopefully, every state. I won North Dakota last night in a landslide, 87 to practically nothing. There's no path. You just saw the vote in Texas. That was a poll. That diner is a poll. Everybody was 100% for Trump. There is no path. What's she doing other than hurting the Republican Party? Now, I have to say this. Democrats gave her a lot of money. Democrats are because... as a certain person, Gavin Newsom, said, there is a man named Gavin Newsom. He interjected himself.
I love when he says Gavin Newsom. Merch Boy, when's the new merch coming out? Soon.
Into this. He said she's their best surrogate for the Democrats, and that's right. She lost when you had Republican primaries where Democrats were allowed to vote, and they went in large numbers to try and make me look bad. And I still won, and I won in South Carolina against her. So, look, there's no path for Nikki. I wish Nikki the...
Exit poll shows 48% of Haley voters approve of Biden in VA. Nikki yet again borrowing a lot of Biden voters. Yeah, I don't think the... By the way, you can thank mainstream media for this, okay? Virginia GOP primary voters, do you approve of Biden's job as president? Trump voters say 1% yes. What are the 1% of Trump voters that said yes to this, by the way? I need to interview them. I need to know who that guy is, that one guy. Haley voters say 48% approve of Biden's job as president. 48%. It's because those aren't Republican voters. Those are Biden voters voting in the GOP primary for Nikki Haley. Why are they doing that? Well, CNN's been laundering a lot of fucking pro Nikki Haley messaging.